Time for the FIU Music Hour on WDNA 88.9 FM, where we present live weekly performances in the WDNA Jazz Gallery. And we feature students, faculty, and alumni from Florida International University's Herbert and Nicole Wertheim School of Music and the Performing Arts. I'm your host today and FIU faculty, Dr. Russ Spiegel, and along with our executive producer, Dr. Karen Velos, we'd like to welcome you to our show. Whether you're listening to us at home, in your car, or live on WDNA.org/FIU, we're delighted to have you with us. Today, we are pleased to feature the Lindsey Blair Quartet with band leader Lindsey Blair on guitar, Pete Wallace on keyboards, Matt Bonelli on bass, and Waldo Madera on drums. Lindsey taught jazz guitar at FIU from 1993 to 2003. He was also a member of the GIT faculty in LA. He has played with Gloria Estefan, Phil Collins, Maynard Ferguson, and many more. Pete Wallace, again, this is an all-star cast, I have to say that, is a producer, songwriter, and studio owner. He has played with Herbie Hancock, yes. Herbie had Pete play on one of his albums. Music director for John Cicada, and he has played with renowned artists Pink, Jessica Simpson, Cheyenne, Alejandro Sanz, and Julio Iglesias. Matt Bonelli is one of the most established and well-respected bass players in the Miami and South Florida area. He played with the Bee Gees and was formerly the head of the jazz department at Miami-Dade College. And not last, but certainly not least, we have Waldo Madera, who is a world-class drummer and a member of the Juanes Band. Am I saying that right? Yes. And for many years has performed with artists as diverse as Wynton Marsalis, Andrea Bocelli, Santana, and Gonzalo Rubalcaba. And good morning, Lindsey. How are you today?
Good, man. Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure. What are the first two tunes you're going to play for us today?
We're going to start off with a couple of Wes Montgomery tunes. One is West Coast Blues, which we didn't put on my last record, and then we're going to follow up with another tune called Sundown by Wes, which is on my All Wes All Day album, which you can download on iTunes and all the streaming platforms or whatever.
All right, fantastic. The Lindsey Blair Quartet. Smoking. Smoking at the WDNA Jazz Gallery on the FIU Music Hour. Lindsey, you have had a full, I'm not going to say long because you're still a young man, a full
Oh, yeah, right.
and storied career in music. And why don't you tell us a little about your background?
My background. Well,
And how did you end up here as well?
Excuse me?
And how you ended up here?
I ended up in Miami basically because I went to Indiana University and they didn't have any place to study guitar there. They were trying to get a jazz guitar teacher named Ted Dunlap. And Ted Dunlap, they decided not to get Ted Dunlap. So I was basically accepted as bait to get Ted Dunlap on the faculty, and he didn't come. So at the very 11th hour, they told me, oh, he's not coming, so you got to find another school. So I flew down to University of Miami, and they were already enrolling for classes. And I auditioned that day, and I paid my tuition, and I was in by by 6 o'clock in the afternoon.
Wow.
So that doesn't happen anymore. It does not happen anymore.
Yeah. Wow. So, and how did it all start? Your love affair with music and jazz and guitar?
Well, it's probably, product of my generation, Beatles. I saw those guys with the guitars and the girls were going nuts, so I was like, I should do that.
Man with his priorities.
Yeah, but eventually it just got to be where the music was the driving force pretty quickly. So I kind of fell into jazz backwards. I mean, I didn't really look for it, and it wasn't the kind of thing I was into at the time, but I remember there was a Monterey Pop Festival was this big thing that Jimi Hendrix played at, and a bunch of bands that I really liked. So they had a big article about it in Look magazine or Life magazine or something like that, and there was pictures of all these. I loved it, like Jimi Hendrix and Janis Joplin and all these people. And they happened to combine those pictures with stuff from the Monterey Jazz Festival, but I didn't catch that part. So I saw Charles Lloyd in there, and I saw Cannonball Adderley in there. So since I saw their pictures next to Jimi Hendrix, I got to get a record by that guy. And I got Charles Lloyd record, and they happened to have Jack DeJohnette playing on drums. Keith Jarrett was a piano player, and Cecil McBee was the bass player. Mm-hmm. So, and he sounded quite a bit like Coltrane at that point. So I got that, and then there was this thing called the Columbia Record Club back then, which it was the draw was like if you paid them $1, they would send you 15 albums for free. So everybody paid the $1 and got the 15 albums for free. But then every month they would send you another album, whether you asked for it or not. So one of the albums that showed up was Willow Weep for Me by Wes. And that's basically this recorded by the same band at the same sessions as Smoking at the Half Note with different tunes on it. And I put that record on. I'd seen him play on TV, playing like Beatles songs and songs that were on the radio, just octaves, melody. And I thought it was like, yeah, this guy's not that good. He's just a corny old man, So I put that record on, and the first track was Impressions at about 300 BPM. And he's flying away, and he's just playing the whole thing. He's playing lines, and then he goes into octaves, and then he's playing a solo at block chords, and well, you can't do that. That's not even possible, You can't move your fingers that fast. And from that point on, it was like I had like Wes, he's the man. Plus, he was a hometown. I'm from Indianapolis, so he was actually living in town at the time too. So.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
I never saw him there, but it's just the fact that there was nobody famous from Indianapolis, and he was the famous guy. So.
Wow.
I liked him.
Yeah. So tell us also about this band, because I know you've been playing together with these people now for a while. And
yeah.
How did this all come about?
Well, I really got to thank Clay Oswald, who's not in town anymore, because he was really the one that kind of like pushed me into doing a jazz project, because we were on the road with Gloria, and he's the musical director.
Gloria.
So he
Stefan.
said, yeah, we should do a jazz band. Like, I got some tunes I wrote. And I said, yeah, I got some. I wasn't thinking at all about doing a record or that putting a jazz thing together. So he says, yeah, let's do an album over at my studio. I said, cool, I'll bring my tunes down. We rehearsed a couple of my tunes. And the first tune I pulled out to rehearsal that ended up being like the title track of the album is called Relentless for this band we put together called Seven Crossing. And then that record came out, and somehow New Times picked me, of all people, I think they're nuts, to be the jazz musician of the year for their magazine.
Wow.
And, I was just a guy, schlepping along, just trying to keep up with these other guys. But I got to thank Clay, because really it's his doing that kind of pushed me into the whole. I wasn't really considered a jazz player before that. I taught jazz at the schools, but it really wasn't when I played on gigs.
Well, how long have you guys been together?
Well, Matt's sitting in with us for maybe the second time, so usually Nikki plays with us, but we were lucky enough to get Matt here today. I started playing with Waldo. My original band was Clay Oswald, Nikki Orta, Clay Oswald, Carlo Magno Arrea, and me. And Carlo left town to go teach in Costa Rica, and I had just played a gig with Waldo where he brought this little dinky, toy drum set. The gig pig he brought. And I went, this guy sounds really good. So I started hiring him, and I just really kind of fell into a thing where he was the guy that I wanted to call for everything. So Clay left town, and then I ended up getting Mike Levine to cover for him, and then we did this album All West All Day over at Mike Levine's studio. Mm-hmm. And Mike has now moved, so I'm just waiting for Pete to move so we can replace him. So we got Pete. We're really lucky enough to get Pete because he's just a phenomenal talent,
Wonderful. Yeah, well, we're very fortunate to have all four of you here today with us.
I feel like I'm the weak cog in the band.
Yeah. So you were teaching at FIU for a while. Why don't you tell us a little about your experience at FIU?
It was cool. I started when I started there. It wasn't. I think the jazz department was very old when I started there. It was Dick Dunscombe was running the program, and I think Gary Campbell recommended me, and they ended up hiring me. And the faculty was Ignacio Baroa as the drum guy, Gary Campbell, John Bailey, trumpet player, both of the Ortas, Nikki and Mike, piano and bass, and then me. I think that's really the jazz faculty, and Dick Dunscombe as well, running the jazz bands. And I had some great students there. I mean, some really good players. Walter Rodriguez, who he doesn't play gigs around, but he's kind of like a YouTube star. Okay. He's got millions of hits on his videos. And he basically makes money off of YouTube playing, and I think he does some sort of other job. He's a fantastic solo guitarist, just plays by himself. Really good. Eddie Trujillo was another. Actually, this guitar was Eddie Trujillo's guitar.
Wow.
We traded up. He got the worst end of the deal. I told him right off the bat, man, I'm getting the good end of this deal. But he wanted to do it anyway. He's a great guitarist. Richard Padron was there for a little bit.
Sure.
And Richard just got back into town. Now he's going to be teaching, I think, at the school that Matt was the head of the department of. Who else? There's a lot of great guitar players there.
And speaking of internet stars or YouTube stars, how can people follow you and what you're up to?
Probably the best place to check is just my Facebook page, Lindsey Blair, because I put my gigs and the stuff that I'm doing on there, and I've got another separate Facebook page, which is like supposedly the band page, but that one's I really don't check as much, but it's Lindsey Blair Guitarist. You can get my album on Spotify or iTunes or anything. All West All Day is out. The two Seven Crossing records that we did with Seven Crossing was basically Gloria Estefan's backup band doing a
Nice,
jazz
nice.
project. And those two albums are available. One's called Relentless, the other one's called The Road Home.
All right. Well, since we have all these great musicians here, I think it might be time for another song. What are you going to play for us?
Oh, okay. So the next one's Angel? Yes. Okay. I need to change guitars for this
Okay,
one.
so he's going to be changing. You're listening to the FIU Music Hour with the Lindsey Blair Quartet, Matt Bonelli. We have also Pete Wallace and Waldo Madera. And what is the name of the song, did you say?
This one's called Angel on My Shoulders, one that I wrote. It's on the album that's you can't get anymore.
Oh, great.
Called A New Dawn.
All right. Here we go. You're listening to a live performance in the WDNA Jazz Gallery of the Lindsey Blair Quartet, here on the FIU Music Hour on WDNA 88.9 FM. Please stick around. We'll be right back after these messages. And we're back. So, Lindsey, what's our next tune we're going to hear?
I think we're going to do, we're working on Stevie Wonder tunes now. So
Nice.
Rocket Love.
And
And then the next one is People Make the World, what is the next one? People Make the World Go Round, which is a Spinners tune.
all right, lovely.
Spinner's tune. It's called People Make the World Go Round.
been listening to the Lindsey Blair Quartet with bandleader Lindsey Blair on guitar, Pete Wallace on piano and keyboards, Matt Benelli on bass, and Waldo Madera on drums on the FIU Music Hour here on WDNA 88.9 FM. I've been your faculty host, Dr. Russ Spiegel, and along with our executive producer, Dr. Karen Velas, we'd like to thank you, and we'd also like to thank WDNA sound and tech wizard Alex Aldrich for the sound, and our interns, Ismael and Anil, and also the staff of WDNA for today's broadcast. If you'd like to find more information on all our programs, make sure to call 305-348-2896 or like our Facebook or Instagram page to stay up to date with all our upcoming performances. Thank you so much for joining us, and make sure to join the FIU Music Hour for more great music every Tuesday, 11 a.m. to noon. Thanks again to our guests, and we have time for one last song to play out. Lindsey, what we got for us?
We're going to do another West tune. This one's called Tear It Down.
Fantastic.